Right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today's CREST internship information session. My name is Blake Reynolds, and I'm with CBRE, and I'm on the DEI Awards and Real Advantage committees. So before I turn it over to the CREST team, I wanted to just highlight CoreNet's upcoming events starting on Wednesday, January 11th at Creative Office Resources. That is being led by Dr. Dwanita Mosby Tyler, and she'll be presenting on equitable leadership, and that will be followed by a happy hour. So next, we just wanted to thank our corporate partners, along with our platinum, gold, and silver sponsors. And so we'll go right into the overview, and over to you, Jason.
Thank you so much, Blake. If you wouldn't mind to stop sharing your screen so I can share mine. Wonderful, thank you. So my name is Jason Pugh, and I lead CREST recruiting efforts. And Milton Benjamin was actually scheduled to be with us today, CREST founder. Unfortunately, he came down with COVID over this past weekend, both him and his wife. And so I will be presenting today in his stead. We're very excited again to be in front of you as an audience of CoreNet. Again, we have such a fabulous relationship over the years and really look forward to continuing to strengthen this relationship again within 2023. We had a number of CoreNet employers represented last year within our portfolio. And so again, very excited to be here today. I'll start off with just a little bit of background and history about the program itself. And so we were founded back in 2012. A man by the name of Dick Galvin of CV Properties, he originally conceived the idea of an internship program staffed entirely by underrepresented students of color and women. He won a contract to build 2 hotels in the seaport of Boston. And at that time, the program was just aligned with the University of Massachusetts at Boston. And so we were exclusively recruiting students from that school, regardless of classification. And those students were very successful in their internships over a number of summers. We then found that a number of the industry associations, such as CoreNet, NAIOP, Urban Land Institute, and the Greater Boston Real Estate Board, really began to embrace that larger idea of diversity and inclusion internships. And we're so thankful for that partnership as it relates to that inclusion and belonging piece of our model. And so the students that we then began recruiting, we then narrowed our mission to recruit juniors, seniors, and graduate students. And a number of those students are continuing to work within the industry today after their internships. So we currently have partnerships with 13 colleges and universities. We are primarily based within the Greater Boston area. We also do have some schools within the New York area and Rhode Island as well, with a recent expansion to the Rhode Island School of Design. And so any of you out there that might be seeking some architectural students, we definitely look forward to engaging with you within 2023. In terms of the students that we are seeking out at these academic institutions, we do require that all of our students have a minimum 3.0 grade point average. And we are accepting applications from both domestic and international students. And so throughout the time that CREST has been around, dating back to 2012, about 150 students have gone through the program itself. And those students comprise our CREST alumni database. And that CREST alumni database and that network has been really helpful for many of our students within the past couple of years as they begin those entry-level steps within commercial real estate and corporate real estate to really build those connections. I'll highlight this picture here. We have Josh Nunez and Mark Watkins, and this is way back in 2019 at one of the CREST sessions that we held, one of the one of the in-person education sessions. And in a couple of slides, I'll actually show you a photo of Josh all grown up, currently working within corporate real estate. A little bit more about those academic partners and really where we are finding our students. We primarily chose these institutions based off of the strength of those career service offices. And so we have a number of relationships with both professors on these campuses and faculty members that really bring a number of the vibrant opportunities within corporate and commercial real estate to their student body. And we're always thankful for those relationships on those campuses. I will say that CREST is also very purposeful in seeking out identity-based groups on these campuses. And so women in business organizations, people of color organizations on these campuses have been wonderful outlets for us to engage students and really bring some of those vibrant opportunities to those students on these campuses. I'll highlight, again, both the Rhode Island School of Design and Suffolk University. These are two new schools that we were able to add within the past month. And so we really do look forward to engaging these two new academic partners for this upcoming year to find students for you all for your internships. These are our 2022 employers. And as you can see, our employers represent all aspects of the commercial real estate industry and corporate real estate industry, ranging from those architectural firms, development firms, project services firms, and then also some commercial real estate adjacent companies, such as science companies or insurance companies. And so this is just giving you a sense of some of those employers that were with us last year and hopefully will be returning again in 2023. Our employers send us specific job descriptions in which they're looking to fulfill specific functions within their organizations. And so as you're thinking about taking on a CREST intern for this upcoming year, thinking about creating that meaningful workplace environment for those students and ultimately having that 10-week internship really be that meaningful place for that student. I'd like to touch upon some of our sponsors and supporters, and all of these organizations, including your chapter here at CoreNet Global. You do a wonderful job of supporting our students throughout the entirety of the summer, but then also at the conclusion of the summer as well. And so we are very thankful for the free student memberships that you're able to offer our students each year. This has really given them that opportunity to delve into CoreNet Global and really take advantage of a number of those learning opportunities that you have available. And so it's definitely one of our highlights of our program, and many of our students have reflected how they've used those memberships and are very thankful to you all as a chapter. I'll touch upon some of our other sponsors and supporters. NAIOP Massachusetts, the Greater Boston Real Estate Board, and the Urban Land Institute. They all do a wonderful job of also extending memberships to our students and also extending invitations to a number of their events throughout the summer. And so, for example, last year, our students had the opportunity to attend the Urban Land Institute's Summer Social, and they got the opportunity to network with individuals at the Urban Land Institute and NAIOP as well. Each year, we have a panel with the Greater Boston Real Estate Board in which they offer some of their members from various stages within their career to display some of the various paths that folks have taken within corporate and commercial real estate. And it gives our students, again, an opportunity to really see where they might fit within this commercial real estate and corporate real estate world. And so thinking about this upcoming summer, we will continue to work with two of the search firms, both Shine Associates and Keller Augusta. They have done an amazing job of supporting our students as it relates to career readiness for their upcoming position, whether it be a continued internship or a full-time position within the industry. And so Keller Augusta and Shine Associates, they each have slots within our education program throughout the summer. And I think this is a unique opportunity because, of course, they have the most up-to-date knowledge as it relates to those positions that are open for hire. And so our students have the ability to network with individuals at both Keller Augusta and Shine Associates as it relates to seeking out those new positions that they might not necessarily find at their career service offices back at their academic institutions. They do wonderful jobs of also providing our students with resume reviews and just making sure that everything is in order as it relates to their search for that next position. And so we're really thankful for those partnerships as well. I will say that all of these organizations do have slots within our virtual education program, and we do look forward to engaging with CoreNet Global again in 2023 for our session as it relates to onboarding our students and getting them acquainted to your chapter. So a little bit of overview just about the internship itself. And so we have 40-hour per week internships generally. And I will say that prior to the pandemic, we had an in-person model where we had a 2-day intensive workshop where our students would receive our professional development and then also commercial real estate business acumen over the course of 2 days. We then shifted that model when the pandemic hit, and we then decided to spread out our learning throughout the entirety of the summer, throughout those 10 weeks. And we found that model was extremely successful. We've now asked our employers to allot generally 2 hours per week for our students to meet with the CREST team and then also with our speakers and presenters each week. And this is where those students are receiving that virtual education. And so our students are having very, very different day-to-day experiences at their various places of work. However, they are within a cohort model, which is another element that I think makes the CREST program fairly unique. Having students entering internships at various stages and different classifications within their both college and graduate careers, they have the opportunity to really build networks and fellowship with one another throughout the entirety of the summer. And so each student, of course, is hired by a commercial real estate firm for an internship, and then they're paid directly by that firm. In terms of the upcoming summer, we are still monitoring the status as it relates to how we would like to deliver our academic program. However, it will most likely be within either a hybrid format or within an in-person or virtual format. And so we will make sure to keep everyone up to date as it relates to the offerings that we have this summer, but I'll tell you a little bit about some of those professional development and business acumen modules that we hold throughout the summer. And so as it relates to commercial real estate business acumen, we have a number of speakers come in, and we ultimately want to provide our students with a comprehensive view of commercial real estate. And so there will be modules as it relates to asset management, the role of a developer. In the past, we've had wonderful participation from Dan Peruzzi, and he teaches a workshop on the anatomy of a building as it relates to architecture, and taking our interns through those steps. And so we look forward to welcoming him back again this year. And so at the conclusion of our summer, our students would have exposures to various aspects of real estate. And ultimately, this really does help them as they begin those entry-level positions within commercial real estate. We have a number of professional speakers and professional coaches that are also on hand as it relates to public speaking, personal brand development, and business writing, just to name a few. And so I think that the favorite course of many of our students would have to be that public speaking course, in which we contract with a professor from the Harvard Chan School of Public Health, Professor Jack Rawson, and he teaches a 2-day intensive workshop where he has our students do individual presentations on their internship experiences after they learn a little bit about some presentation skills on that first day. And it truly is amazing to see how our students are able to apply those skills, not only at their places of work, but then also at their academic institutions as well. And many of our students have actually gone on to really participate in a number of public speaking opportunities, thanks to that specific course with Professor Rawson. Also, just making sure that our students, again, have those necessary skills for those entry-level positions, covering that business writing, but then also that personal brand development and making sure that our students are prepared to enter the industry and having a firm sense of their own personal brand. And so we work with Coach Denise Kegler, and she asks our students the question, what do you want folks to think about you after you leave the room? And so our students are able to marinate over that question over the course of her workshop And then ultimately at the end, they provide presentations as it relates to their own personal brand. And again, it is really amazing to see how students are able to apply those skills at their places of work. I'll touch upon the consistent feedback and evaluation, and this is where my colleague Sandra King comes in. Sandra is in touch with both our interns and then our interns direct manager throughout the summer. And so at the conclusion of each week, Sandra asks each of our interns to send her a short report, generally 1 to 3 paragraphs, about some of the new exposures that that intern has received throughout that week at their place of work. Sandra then compiles a report for our internal team. And so we have a good sense as to how the intern is operating at your individual firm. And then, as I mentioned before, she's also in touch with the intern's direct manager to make sure that those expectations are being met on both sides. Of course, all of our employers are sending us specific job descriptions, and so we really do want to ensure that those students are able to meet those individual qualifications that you all set out as employers. So I've had the opportunity to tell you a little bit about those networking opportunities, primarily through many of the industry associations, and primarily you all here at CoreNet, and a number of the opportunities that you have granted our students based off of those free student memberships that you continue to offer. I'll also just expand a little bit more on the CREST alumni network. And so I mentioned we have about 150 students who have gone through our program dating back to 2012. And about 2 years ago, we found that a number of these students ultimately wanted to formalize a network. And so a couple of our students got together and they created CAN, the CREST Alumni Network. They work very closely with each other throughout the summer. And the past 2 years, we've actually had the opportunity to invite a number of our alumni back, and they've actually held slots within our virtual education program. Last summer, we were able to offer 2 panels, one with some of our early career professionals, and then another panel with some of our more seasoned professionals dating back to 2012, to again give our students exposures to folks within different areas and different places within their careers, to really highlight some of those vibrant opportunities and really get them excited for those entry-level positions. And so the alumni network continues to support CREST in so many ways, in terms of providing students with those individual conversations about the firms where they might see themselves today, but then also just that the alumni group itself acts as an affinity space for many of our students. And I think that this is fairly unique because all of our students are either underrepresented students of color or women. And so having that affinity space is really important for many of our students to reach out after the conclusion of the internship. And ultimately, after they then graduate from that cohort, they become a part of this larger network. And so we really look forward to continuing on with the CREST Alumni Network this upcoming year. Here's our class of 2021, and I just wanted to highlight a couple of the students to give you a sense of some of the diverse paths that they've taken throughout their internships within the summer. And so here you can see in the middle, here's Kevin Adweso. Kevin was with Arrow Street for his internship, and he was an undergraduate student at Connecticut College studying architecture. He ultimately wanted to use the CREST internship as a springboard to gain admission into graduate school. And so he was able to work with a number of folks, both at Arrow Street, but then also through a number of the connections that he made throughout the summer. And he's now at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte, where he's pursuing a master's in architecture. And he thanks the CREST program specifically for the networking opportunities that he received throughout the summertime. I'll now move over to Tristan Moore. Tristan entered our program knowing that he wanted to go into development. And so he was at Oxford Properties for his summer internship. And while he was at Oxford Properties, Tristan had to conduct a number of site visits. I will say that Tristan was one of our students that really excelled throughout our public speaking presentation, and he was able to use a number of those public speaking skills that he acquired from Professor Rawson, and was able to network with some folks from Rise Construction Management on one of those site visits, where he now works as an assistant project manager. And so again, we're very proud of Tristan. I'll also highlight Carolyn Lamb. Carolyn was with us where she completed her internship completely virtual. I will say that the majority of our employers this year have expressed that the internships will either be in a hybrid format or in an in-person format. And so this was a unique case where Carolyn was placed with CV Properties, and she was able to complete that internship while she was based out in California. And so ultimately, when you sign up to become a CREST employer, you will express as to the location of the internship and really what you expect for this upcoming summer. But just wanted to give you a little bit of a sense as to how she was very successful within her internship at CV Properties based in California. And so at the conclusion of her internship, she actually landed a position at Aries Management out in California, who does a lot of work with CV Properties. And so again, using those networking skills that she gained throughout our program to land that position. Here's our class from last year, and I'm sure that many of you will be familiar with some of these faces. Again, I want to thank all of you who joined us for the sessions that we held with CoreNet Global this past summer in terms of, again, acquainting our students to you as a chapter, but then also some of the opportunities that you offer. All of these students have been very successful, and we really look forward to engaging our next class. As you can see, this is a very diverse class, and we have set the goal this year to identify 30 interns from across our academic partners. And we really look forward to, again, adding more employers to our database. And so we look forward to hopefully adding on more employers today. I'd like to now highlight some of those past events that we held throughout this past summer. And as you can see, these are those interns from 2022. We have our Spin Boston event, the first event of the summer, where you all invited our students out to play ping pong. And our students have really reflected how that event was just wonderful because it was actually their first exposure to meeting in person with many of their fellow cohort members. And so they really do reflect positively upon that experience. But then also your summer soiree, and then also your slot within our virtual education program was all a wonderful opportunity for our students to get to know your membership. Here you can see our students continuing on with those, the Spin Boston event, and then also that summer soiree. And then also our CREST virtual education slot that we held with you all this past summer that we look forward to again this year. Now, I mentioned before earlier in some of the slides that individual, Josh Munoz, back in 2012, you saw him pictured with Mark Watkins. Now here down in the bottom right, you can see Josh Munoz, all grown up, now an active member of CoreNet, and we're so thankful for that. He's pictured here with my colleague, Sandra King, and he was able to attend the golf tournament that you all held this past year, representing CREST as an alum, but then also as a CoreNet member as well. And so really that's one of our success stories, and seeing how a student was able to start earlier on within the CREST program as an intern, and then continue on working full-time within the industry and taking full advantage of those opportunities, particularly with the CoreNet Global New England chapter. And so these are some of our mentees from the CoreNet Global Mentoring Program that we established 2 years ago. And I will say that we completed our beta year this past year, and it was extremely successful. And we look forward to, again, engaging with you all to identify mentors for this upcoming year. In a moment, I'll turn it over to Abby and Russell to expand a little bit more on the program, but I will say that this has given our students an outlet outside of their individual workplace assignment to have an individual that's really dedicated to their own professional growth and personal development. All of these students have been touched by you all as a chapter, and so we're very thankful for that support and looking forward to engaging more mentees this year for our students. I'll now turn it over to both Abby and Russell to expand a little bit more on the program.
Excellent. Thank you, Jason. So this year, Abby and I are going to be going over the mentor-mentee program, kind of a high-level overview for this coming year. As you can see, for the past 2 years, we've averaged about, CoreNet's being able to provide 8 to 9 mentor-mentee connections per year. This year, we're really going to try to step it up and provide 30 connections this year between the mentors and mentees. So we have a lot of work ahead of us for this one. And one question that some people ask, like, who can be a mentor for this program? And we're very open. It can be experienced professionals, young leaders, past CREST interns, and then many more as well. One thing that we're asked about is time commitment. So what type of time commitment will be involved? So it's going to be during the duration of the CREST program. So about that 10-week program from June to middle of August. Typically, we ask that the mentor-mentees do a weekly check-in. It could be 30 minutes, an hour, just kind of a weekly check-in just to see how everything's going. We'd also like to do kind of an in-person kickoff meeting at the beginning of the program. And we'd also like to try to meet up at certain CoreNet events during the summer, like the summer soiree or other CoreNet events that might occur during the summer. So if your mentor and mentee can kind of get together and meet up during those programs, that's definitely a great opportunity. And we're here to support both the mentor and mentee during the summer. So you definitely have our support on any questions that you have. Feel free to contact us. We are looking to do a little more detailed information session early next year. So hopefully we'll be able to schedule that out soon. But if you guys have any questions, just feel free to reach out to us and we'll be happy to schedule some time or talk with you. And Abby's providing our information in the chat. So if you guys are interested in becoming a mentor, just email either both of us or one of us.
And
Thanks.
so we'll be happy to provide you additional information if you have any questions. So feel free to reach out to us.
We definitely look forward to that partnership. Again, thinking about that possibility of having 60 folks in the room, both mentors and mentees this upcoming year is extremely exciting. And so again, thank you all for that support. I want to highlight 2 of our interns from this past summer who really took advantage of a number of the CoreNet Global opportunities that you were able to offer them. And so I'll first start with Jessie Harrington. And Jessie was at the University of Massachusetts Amherst studying hospitality and tourism management. And she actually graduates this month. Her mentor was Mark Watkins, and she was at Liberty Mutual. She was able to attend the ERS, and it was wonderful for her to, again, have that opportunity to interface on that professional level to gain a little bit more information about a number of the DEI practices and then also ESG as well. And so she is one of those success stories, again, in taking advantage of those mentoring opportunities and then also the opportunities that you all offer here at CoreNet Global. And so Jessie was definitely one of our success stories last year. And then also Juliana. Juliana was at Bentley University, where she was studying management. And she graduates in May this upcoming year, but she was able to attend the summit in Chicago. And so a couple of slides ago, there was a picture of Summit where she was able to join you all as a chapter. Were you able to support her in that effort in actually traveling to Chicago and sponsoring her for that individual conference? Again, I think this really does display the partnership between CREST and CoreNet and how we're able to really support our students if they have a specific interest within corporate real estate and really helping to actualize those dreams of our students. And so Juliana is, of course, very, very thankful to you all at CoreNet. And I would also just urge you all to keep an eye out for Juliana as she continues to find full-time employment this upcoming May. So this brings us to where we are today in terms of our upcoming summer program. And so I'll just highlight our program dates running from June 5th through August 11th. And it's a 10-week internship. In terms of thinking about signing on as a CREST employer for this upcoming summer and hosting an intern, starting to think about some of those ways that you can really create that meaningful workplace experience for your intern. I'm sure a number of folks on this call would also offer their support as it relates to how their organization was able to set up their intern for success. Also thinking about some of the prerequisites for the position. Again, we're asking all of our employers to submit job descriptions for these internships for those 10 weeks throughout the summer. And so thinking about individual student classifications, whether there's a specific major or field that you'd like a student to be studying or interested in. And then also thinking about whether you might like to hire the candidate at the completion of the internship. Of course, that is thinking a little farther ahead, but really seeing the impact that a number of our students have made as it relates to the diversity, equity, and inclusion impact of the industry as a whole, and really seeing how many of these interns are able to move on into full-time positions. And that's really how we're able to move that diversity, equity, and inclusion needle within commercial and corporate real estate. So we ask you all to please complete our 2023 employer participation form by January 20th, and we will follow up at the conclusion of this call with that information and the link for this form itself. The form has you fill out some information as it relates to your individual firm, the intern that you're seeking, and then again, that job description. We would then follow up with you and hopefully have a conversation about your individual needs to learn a little bit more about your firm, and then also hopefully setting you up for success as it relates to identifying the interns for this upcoming summer. As it relates to our process, when students apply to the CREST program, they apply with a resume and a cover letter and a general expressed interest within commercial real estate. Our team then screens all of our applicants and we vet them through a series of interviews. At that point, we then provide our students with matches. Our students and our employers receive generally 1 to 3 matches. And so these are matches with firms, and our students actually have the opportunity to express which of our current firms they could see themselves potentially excelling at and why. And this gives us a little bit of insight as to what the students are thinking about for the upcoming summer. We also would then have the opportunity to learn a little bit more about those areas of real estate that those students are interested in. And it gives us a really firm sense of where they could potentially excel this summer. As you all know, we have some very long established relationships with many of our firms. And so of course, there's varied company cultures, and so that's why we do invite those individual meetings with CREST as it relates to specifically what you're seeking out as an employer. Once you receive those 1 to 3 matches, you would then have the opportunity to interview those students either in person or over a virtual interview. And then you would select one of those interns to serve as your CREST intern for the upcoming summer. I will say that there have been firms in the past who have taken on multiple interns, and I will say that there is this possibility this upcoming year. Please just do note that within your employer participation form, and we'd love to open up that conversation about additional interns as well. Just again, highlighting the support that CREST really offers our students throughout the summer. And so we are providing the CREST virtual education program, again, monitoring that status, but most likely either in a virtual or in a hybrid format this upcoming year. And then that ongoing support from my colleague, Sandra King, in terms of those check-ins with both the employer and the intern themselves. We ask that all of our employers commit to paying a minimum $15 an hour salary. Again, that is the minimum. And we've seen a range going up to $28 an hour. Of course, we have both graduate and undergraduate students represented within our portfolio of students. And so there's really a range there. Lastly, I'll just mention our administrative fee. And this is based off of the work that CREST does in terms of our recruiting efforts at a number of our academic partners. And so all of the info sessions and all of the work that we do as it relates to seeking out students, we ask our employers to commit to paying an administrative fee of $5,000, and that would be invoiced after the intern is hired by you, the firm, and that they would be the CREST intern for the upcoming summer. I'm more than happy to, again, have any individual conversations with you all as it relates to your interest within a CREST intern this upcoming summer, or even about just thinking about how you can best support that intern. I know that was a lot of information in a short amount of time, and so I'd love to open up this conversation for some questions from you all. And there are a number of employers that are returning in this space again this year, and I'm sure that they'd also be happy to field any questions that some of our newer employers might have. But thank you all again for the opportunity to present today, and look forward to receiving those questions from you.
So Jason, it's Catherine. I'm going to end the silence here and just speak up about our experience at Liberty Mutual, which has been nothing but positive. We've had, I think you highlighted Jessie, who was our intern last year, and I think she not only had a wonderful opportunity here with CREST and with Liberty and certainly with her participation in CoreNet, but she really excelled. And was exposed to so many things in her very short time with us. You know, at the end of our sessions, we're always sad to see the interns move on because they were so helpful, and we really truly enjoy having them and watching them succeed and grow. And she was able to complete a project from beginning to end, which always, doesn't happen. But did a great job with it, asked a lot of good questions, and really applied what she learned through CREST to her work. I think, I think this will be our fourth year. Russell, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we had initially Marcos Alamu, who actually joined Liberty as a in our global retail markets department. So with the business line, focusing on analytics, and he's flourishing as well. And then Emma Hans was last year, and she's at PwC. So it's really so rewarding to see where our interns go and, follow their careers and see their successes. So I know we have a small group here, but I would encourage any employer to participate in this. We've had a very good experience.
Thank you for providing that strong testimonial, Catherine, and we're so thankful for that relationship. I will say that we're extremely proud of Jessie and the work that she's done, and she's actually reached out to CREST to offer her support for us this upcoming summer, and so we're looking forward to engaging with her as that alum. You also mentioned Marcos. I believe he's actually featured on the CoreNet website with a short testimonial video as it relates to his experience. And so I'd urge you all to take a look at that video if you'd like to hear from a student directly. Marcos, again, having that wonderful opportunity throughout his internship and then continuing on at Liberty Mutual. Thanks, Catherine.
Yeah, and happy to answer questions outside of today. If anybody has any questions on the process, happy to assist with that.
Thank you, Catherine, and thank you, Jason, and all for joining today's call. If there aren't any further questions right now, we can give you some time back on your calendars, but if you should have any questions come up, please feel free to reach out to me, Jason, Abby, or Russell to discuss the mentorship program. So thank you all for joining, and we look forward to seeing some applications come in.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
All right.